You woke up this morning, that alone, that single fact, is something millions of people yesterday did not get to do. And yet the first thing most people do when they open their eyes is reach for their phone and immediately begin comparing their life to someone else's. Before they've even taken a full breath, before the morning light has touched their face completely, ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you woke up and your first thought was, something good is coming for me today? Not because everything is perfect, not because your problems disappeared overnight, but simply because you chose to believe it. That choice, that tiny, quiet, almost invisible choice, changes everything. This is not about pretending life is easy. This is not about covering your pain with a smile and calling it positivity. Anyone who tells you to just think positive and then leaves you without the deeper understanding, they have given you a seed but no soil. What you are about to hear is something older than motivational videos. Something that monks understood, that ancient teachers passed down not through books, but through the way they lived, the way they breathed, the way they breathed, the way they began each single day. It is the understanding that your morning, specifically how you enter your morning, is the most powerful moment of your entire day. And most people are wasting it completely. Here is what actually happens for most people. You are tired. You didn't sleep well, or maybe you slept too much and still feel empty. You have problems waiting for you. Financial stress, relationship tension, a job you're not sure about, a future that feels uncertain. You carry all of that into your morning like a bag of stones. And then you move through your day already heavy, already defending yourself against a world you've decided before noon is working against you. You don't do this consciously. That's the hard part. It's not a choice you make deliberately. It's a habit that has become so automatic you don't even see it happening. You've rehearsed this heaviness so many times that your mind now runs it like a background program, quietly, constantly, shaping every experience you have without your permission. The person who cut you off in traffic, it ruins your morning. The email that doesn't come, it ruins your afternoon. The small thing that goes wrong, it confirms what you already believed, that life is difficult and good things don't really come easily to you. But what if that belief itself was the thing standing between you and every good thing you say you want? Your morning is a seed, not a report. Think about what you actually do in the first few minutes after you wake up. Before you've even fully opened your eyes, your hand is already moving toward your phone. You're checking messages, scrolling through news, looking at what other people did while you were sleeping. You're pulling the entire weight of the world into your mind before your mind has even had a chance to fully arrive in the day. And here is the thing. You don't do this because you're weak or undisciplined. You do this because somewhere along the way, you learn to treat the morning like a report. Like a newspaper that tells you what the world has decided about your day before you've had any say in it. You wake up and immediately begin scanning for problems. What needs my attention? What went wrong? What am I behind on? What do I need to defend myself against today? This is not a morning. This is a courtroom where you are already standing in the dock before you've had your first cup of water. A morning is not a report from the outside world. A morning is something far more personal, far more powerful, and far more yours than most people ever realize. A morning is a seed, and the extraordinary thing about seeds is this. The tree that grows from them has no memory of the ground it came from. It only grows in the direction of what it was given at the start. Whatever you place inside yourself in those first quiet minutes, before the noise begins, before anyone else's voice enters your mind, before the demands and the deadlines and the thousand small urgencies of modern life come knocking at your door. That is what expands through every hour that follows. Not sometimes, not occasionally, every single time. If the first thing you feed your mind is worry, your mind will spend the rest of the day looking for reasons to stay worried. It will find them. It is very good at finding them. If the first thing you give yourself is comparison, looking at someone else's life and measuring the distance between theirs and yours, then you will walk through the entire day, feeling that distance like a weight across your shoulders. And if the first thing you give yourself is the genuine, grounded, quietly powerful statement that good things always happen to you, even if part of you isn't fully sure yet, even if the circumstances around you don't seem to support it. You plant something with roots, something the rest of the day will struggle to uproot no matter what it brings. This is not poetic language. This is not a soft idea designed to make you feel temporarily better. This is the actual mechanics of how the human mind moves through experience. What you introduce at the beginning shapes the architecture of everything that follows. The first thought you give real energy to in the morning becomes the lens through which every other experience of that day is filtered and interpreted. Think about the days when you woke up genuinely feeling good, maybe for no particular reason, or maybe because something you were looking forward to was coming. Remember how differently everything felt. The same traffic that usually frustrated you was somehow manageable. The same conversation that might have felt tense felt lighter. The same workload that normally felt heavy felt like something you could actually move through. The external conditions hadn't changed. Your colleagues were the same people. The road was the same road. The work was the same work. What changed was the seed you woke up with, and the entire day grew from it. Now think about the days when you woke up heavy, already anxious, already behind, already carrying something you hadn't resolved. Every small inconvenience became confirmation of your mood. Every delay felt personal. Every conversation felt like it was asking too much of you. Same world, completely different experience of it because the seed was different. You are the soil. This is not flattery, it is function. The soil does not argue with what is placed inside it. It does not evaluate whether the seed deserves to grow or question whether the conditions are right. It simply does what soil does. It receives, and it grows what it has been given. Your mind works in exactly this way during the impressionable, open, unguarded minutes of the early morning when the day has not yet fully hardened around you. The tree doesn't argue, the seed. The harvest doesn't negotiate with the planting. What goes in is what comes out. Not immediately, but inevitably with time and with the quiet consistency of natural processes that don't ask for your opinion. So here's the only real question. What are you planting? Because right now, today, you have a choice that most people don't recognize as a choice. You can continue treating your morning like a crisis briefing, a scramble to catch up with everything outside you. Or you can take back those first minutes, not with force, not with discipline that feels like punishment, simply with the recognition that this time, this quiet, unheld, unscheduled window between sleep and the day belongs entirely to you. And what you choose to put inside it will grow. It will grow whether you watch it or not. It will grow whether you remember planting it or not. The mind, like soil, does not need your constant attention to do its work. It only needs to be given the right thing at the right moment. That moment is the morning. That right thing is the truth you choose to begin with. Plant it carefully, plant it daily, and stop being surprised when your days begin to grow differently. An affirmation is not a wish. It is a training. There is a reason most people try affirmations for a few days and then quietly abandon them. They stood in front of the mirror, they said the words, they waited. Nothing happened, or at least nothing they could see, nothing they could measure. Nothing that arrived quickly enough to make the practice feel worth continuing. And so they concluded reasonably that affirmations are either too simple to be real or designed for a certain kind of person they are not. But the conclusion was wrong. Not because affirmations are magic, they are not, but because the understanding of what an affirmation actually is was wrong from the beginning. And when you misunderstand the nature of a tool, you will always use it incorrectly and then blame the tool for the result. An affirmation is not a wish. It is not a request submitted to the universe. It is not a prayer in disguise or a form of positive thinking that asks reality to rearrange itself in your favor because you said something nice about yourself out loud. If you approach it that way, you will always be disappointed, because that is not what it is, and that is not how it works. An affirmation is a training session. That is the only frame that makes it honest and makes it real. Think about what training actually means. When someone trains their body, genuinely trains, not exercises occasionally, but trains with intention and structure, they are not doing it to feel the result today. They are doing a repetition that will contribute to a result that accumulates over time. The runner who laces up on a cold morning and runs when they don't feel like it is not running because today's session will make them fast. They are running because the 10th session and the 50th and the 100th will. Each individual session is almost invisible in its contribution, but taken together across time, the body becomes something it previously was not. This is exactly what happens in the mind when you work with affirmations correctly. Every morning that you sit and genuinely say, "Good things always happen to me," you are doing one repetition of a mental training session. That single repetition does very little on its own, but it does something. It makes a small impression. It sends a faint signal. It begins to ask a certain part of your mind to consider the possibility that this statement might be true. And the next morning you do another repetition, and the one after that another, and slowly across days, and then weeks, and then months, something begins to happen that has no fee. And to do with magic and everything to do with how the mind actually changes, the neural pathways in your brain, the physical routes that your thoughts travel, are not fixed. They are not permanent structures that were decided at birth or shaped entirely by your childhood and cannot be altered. They are more like roads. Roads that become wider, smoother, and easier to travel the more they are used, and roads that become overgrown and eventually impassable when they are abandoned. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen the pathway. Every time you think the same thought again, you make that pathway slightly more automatic. This is not metaphor. This is how the brain physically works. For most people, the pathway that says things go wrong for me, I have to struggle, good things don't come easily, has been traveled so many times, over so many years, that it is practically a highway. Wide, smooth, automatic. The mind runs down it without effort, without decision, almost without awareness. Something small goes wrong, and immediately, without any conscious choice, the mind is already on that highway, confirming the old story, adding new evidence to the old conclusion. The affirmation is how you begin to build a different road. You are not going to destroy the old one immediately. You are not going to wake up on day 3 and find that your negative thought patterns have simply vanished. That is not how roads work, and it is not how minds work. The old pathway will still be there. The old thoughts will still arise. But slowly, with each repetition, the new road gets a little wider, a little smoother, a little more natural to travel. And here is the part that matters most, the part that separates the people who give up from the people who genuinely change. The most important repetitions are the ones you do when you don't want to. When you wake up tired and the morning fee, else heavy, and nothing in your circumstances supports the idea that good things are coming. When the voice inside you hears the affirmation and immediately argues back with a list of evidence to the contrary. Those are not the moments to stop. Those are the moments the training is working hardest. The resistance you feel is not a sign that the practice is false. The resistance is the sign that the old pathway is being asked to share the space it has held alone for years. Of course, it resists. Of course, it pushes back. A habit that has gone unchallenged for a decade does not step aside quietly when something new arrives. It fights, and your job, the only job you have in that moment, is to do the repetition anyway, calmly, without drama, without demanding that the resistance disappear first. The athlete who quits when the training gets hard never finds out what they were capable of becoming. The person who stops the affirmation the moment discomfort arrives never reaches the point where the new pathway becomes natural. They only ever experience the beginning over and over and then conclude that nothing changes, not realizing that change was already underway, already building, just beneath the threshold of what was visible. One repetition is almost nothing. Consistent repetition over time is everything. That is what you are doing in your morning. You are not wishing. You are not hoping. You are not asking for something. You are training yourself, patiently, deliberately, with the full understanding that results are coming, and they are coming because you showed up for the session, not because the session felt good. The words are simple. The practice is consistent. And the result, the person you will become through it, is something that cannot be given to you from the outside. It can only be built from within, one repetition at a time, in the quiet of a morning that no one else can do for you. What you look for, you find there is something happening inside your brain right now that you cannot feel and cannot directly observe, and yet it is shaping every single experience you have, every single day, without ever asking for your permission or your awareness. It is called the reticular activating system. It sits at the base of your brain and its entire purpose. The only thing it exists to do is to decide, from the overwhelming flood of information your senses receive every second, what gets your attention and what gets filtered out. Because here's the reality of your experience. At any given moment, you are surrounded by thousands of things you could notice. Sounds at the edge of hearing, details on faces, colors in your peripheral vision, patterns in the environment around you, the temperature of the air on different parts of your skin, the distant sound of traffic, the texture of the surface beneath your hands. All of it is there. All of it is real. And almost none of it reaches your conscious awareness, because if it did, you would be completely overwhelmed and unable to function. So the reticular activating system acts as a filter. And the filter does not decide randomly what to show you and what to hide. It takes its instructions from you, specifically from what you have, over time, communicated to it as important, what you have focused on repeatedly, what you have believed about the world and about yourself, what you have rehearsed in your mind so many times that the mind has concluded, this must matter because we keep returning to it. If you have spent years, through circumstance, through painful experience, through the quiet accumulation of small disappointments, telling your mind that life is difficult, that things don't work out for you, that good things come to other people but not with the same ease to you, then on your filter has been set to confirm exactly this. And it does its job brilliantly. It is not trying to hurt you. It is genuinely trying to help you by showing you what it has been told is real and important. So it highlights the inconveniences, amplifies the setbacks, makes sure the closed doors are impossible to miss, and quietly, efficiently filters out the 10 things that went right so that all your attention can go to the 3 things that went wrong. You are not imagining that life is hard. You are experiencing the world through a filter that has been calibrated over years to find hardness, and it finds it every single time, because it is very, very good at its job. But here is what this understanding gives you, and it is genuinely one of the most quietly powerful realizations a person can have. The filter is not fixed. It is not a permanent structure you were born with and are stuck with forever. It is a setting, and settings can be changed, not overnight. Not with one conversation or one morning or one decision, but with the kind of consistent, repeated, genuinely felt focus that rewrites the instructions the filter is operating from. When you really begin, not just dabble, but commit to holding in your mind the statement that good things always happen to you, and you return to it daily, and you attach real feeling to it, something begins to shift in that filter. Slowly, it begins to recalibrate. It begins to add new categories to its list of things worth noticing, and then something that looks like magic starts happening. But it is not magic. You start noticing the opportunity that was sitting in plain sight for weeks before you saw it. You start noticing the person in the room who seems to want to help you, who was always there, but whom your previous filter had no instruction to flag as significant. You start noticing the moment when something that first appeared to be a setback turned out to redirect you towards something better, something you would never have found if the original path had stayed open. None of these things are new. They were always there. But now your filter has been given new instructions, and so it shows them to you. This is what people mean when they talk about luck changing. It rarely means that external circumstances changed in some inexplicable way. It almost always means that the person changed. Something shifted in how they were looking, and the world they had always been living in began to reveal different things to them. Think about a time in your life when you were genuinely happy, not wildly excited, just genuinely content and open. A period when things felt like they were flowing. Look back carefully at that time and ask yourself honestly, Was the world actually delivering more good things to you during that period? Or were you simply open enough, light enough, unguarded enough that you could see and receive what was always available? And then think about a dark period, a time when everything seemed to confirm your worst fears about yourself or your life. Was the world genuinely withholding from you? Or was your filter running at maximum sensitivity for evidence of pain and finding it everywhere, even in places where it barely existed? The same person, the same world, two completely different experiences. Because the lens was different. What you look for, you find. This is not optimism. This is not the comfortable lie that tells you everything will always be wonderful. It is something more honest and more demanding than that. It is the recognition that your experience of life is not handed to you fully formed from the outside. It is co-created between what exists in the world and what your mind has been trained to see within it. And so when you say every morning, genuine, nally with feeling, with the intention of someone who understands what they are actually doing, good things always happen to me, you are not deceiving yourself. You are not covering reality with a pleasant fiction. You are slowly, carefully, repetition by repetition, adjusting the lens, updating the filter, sending new instructions to the part of your brain that decides what your life looks like. The good was always there. You were simply not yet tuned to receive it. And now, starting from this morning, starting from right now, you are beginning to tune. The resistance is the practice, the morning you decide to truly begin. Not just try, but genuinely commit to saying good things always happen to me as a daily practice. Something will happen that nobody warns you about. You will feel resistance. Not laziness, not forgetfulness, something more active than that. A voice clear and convincing that rises up from somewhere inside you and begins to argue. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply presents its case quietly and methodically, like a lawyer who has been preparing for this moment for years. It says, you know this isn't true. You know what happened last year. You know the situation you're currently in. You know the thing you wanted that didn't come. You know the person who left. You know the person who left. You know the opportunity that closed, and saying pretty words in the morning doesn't change any of that. And the voice is not entirely wrong. Those things did happen. The pain was real. The disappointment was real. The closed doors were real. The resistance is not lying to you. It is showing you evidence, real evidence from your real life. And this is exactly why it is so effective at stopping people. Because it doesn't feel like self-sabotage. It feels like honesty. It feels like the mature, grounded, clear-eyed position, the position of someone who has stopped fooling themselves and is finally facing reality as it is. But here is what the voice never tells you. Here is what it leaves out of its very convincing argument. The resistance is not a sign that the practice is wrong. The resistance is the sign that the practice is working. To understand why this is true, you have to understand what is actually happening beneath the surface when you begin to challenge an old belief. A belief, any belief, whether it serves you or damages you, is not just a thought. It is a pattern. A groove worn into your mental landscape through years and years of repetition. Every time you experience something difficult and your mind concluded this is how life works for me, that conclusion deepened the groove. Every time you expected things to be hard and they were hard, the pattern strengthened. Over years, across hundreds of small experiences, the belief that struggle is your default and good things are uncertain or rare. That belief became structural. It became part of the foundation your daily experience rests on. And now you are coming in the morning with a single statement that challenges it. Of course, it fights back. It has been there for years. It has deep roots. It has evidence. It has the full weight of your personal history behind it. And you are asking it to make room for something new, something that hasn't proven itself yet, something that asks you to trust before the proof arrives. The discomfort you feel, the internal argument that rises up, that is the old pattern defending the territory it has held for a very long time. Think about what happens when a muscle is trained for the first time after a long period of not being used. The first session is uncomfortable in a way that feels almost wrong. The body sends signals that say stop. This is too much. This isn't what we do. And if you listen to those signals and stop, the musk, he never changes. But if you understand that the discomfort is not damage, it is adaptation, then you continue, not aggressively, not by pushing through pain recklessly, but steadily, calmly, with the knowledge that what feels like resistance is actually the process of becoming. The mind works in exactly the same way. When your old belief pushes back against the affirmation, that friction is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that the new message is reaching deep enough to disturb something. A message that only touches the surface doesn't create friction. It just slides off. The fact that resistance arises means the affirmation is going somewhere real, somewhere into the actual territory where change needs to happen. Most people never find this out. They feel the resistance, interpret it as proof that the practice is false, and stop. They stop at precisely the moment when continuing would have made all the difference. They turned back at the edge of the field they were trying to cross, never knowing that what felt like a wall was actually a door that opened or sustained patient pressure. The ones who continue not dramatically, not with gritted teeth and fierce willpower, but simply and consistently, the way water continues flowing without forcing anything. They are the ones who eventually feel the shift. And when it comes, it doesn't arrive with a fanfare. It arrives quietly the way dawn arrives. You don't see the exact moment the darkness becomes light. You just notice, at some point, that the room is brighter than it was, that the voice of resistance is less loud than it used to be, that saying good things always happen to me feels less like fighting and more like remembering something true. But you only get there by not stopping when the resistance comes. So here's what you do. When the voice rises, and it will rise, perhaps every morning, for a while, you do not fight it. You do not argue with it. You do not try to defeat it through logic or force. You simply acknowledge it the way you would acknowledge a cloud passing through the sky, and then you return gently to the practice. You say the words again. You feel them as genuinely as you can in that moment. And then you let the day begin. That's it. That's the whole practice. Not the absence of resistance, the continuation through it. Not the silence of the old voice, the choice to speak the new one anyway. The resistance is not your enemy. It is the weight you are training against. And every morning you lift it, every morning you feel the push and continue anyway, you become in some small and real and cumulative way stronger than you were the day before. Do not wait for the resistance to disappear before you believe the practice is working. The resistance disappearing is the result of the practice. It comes after, and it comes only to the ones who did not mistake the difficulty for a reason to stop. Gratitude is the soil that makes the seed grow faster. Before we talk about what gratitude does, let's talk honestly about what most people think it is. Most people think gratitude is a feeling that arrives when something good happens. A reaction, something that shows up automatically when life delivers something worth being grateful for. A promotion, a reunion, a moment of unexpected beauty. And in those moments, yes, gratitude arises naturally, without effort, without practice. You don't have to work to feel grateful when everything is going well. But that is not the gratitude we are talking about here. That is the easy kind. The kind that costs nothing because the circumstances are providing it for you. The kind that anyone can feel when the conditions are right. The gratitude that acts as soil prans a morning. The gratitude that acts as soil B. Enough your affirmations and makes everything grow faster and deeper. That is a different thing entirely. It is not a reaction. It is a practice. It is something you choose to generate deliberately, even on the mornings when nothing in your external life is obviously offering it to you. And the way you access it is not complicated. It requires only one question, asked honestly, with genuine attention. What exists in my life right now that if it were taken away tomorrow, I would immediately and completely understand its value? Sit with that question for even 30 seconds. Not while scrolling, not while your mind is already running through the day ahead. Actually sit with it. Let it land. Your vision, The ability to read these words, to see the faces of people you know, to watch light change through a window, millions of people in the world right now do not have this, and you have never once had to earn it or fight for it. It was simply there when you woke up. Your body's ability to move, to stand, to walk, to reach for something across a table. The fact that you woke up this morning breathing without effort, your lungs doing their work through the entire night without a single conscious instruction from you. The fact that somewhere in your life, even if it is only one person, there is someone who would be affected if you were gone tomorrow. The fact that you have something to eat today, that you are not waiting for food to arrive in a place where it might not come. These are not small things dressed up to seem significant. These are the foundations of a livable life, and most of us walk through most of our days treating them as so obvious they don't even register. Gratitude is the practice of making them register again. And here is why this matters so directly for what we are building in the morning. When you say good things always happen to me from a place of genuine emptiness, when the words go out but there is no felt truth beneath them, they float. They exist only at the surface level. They are in that state closer to wishful thinking than to training, because they are not connected to anything real and present in your actual experience. But when you spend even a short time in real gratitude before you reach the affirmation, when you have already touched, genuinely touched, several things in your life that are good and real and present right now, something changes in the quality of the statement. It is no longer reaching toward an imagined future good. It is recognizing a pattern of good that already exists. The affirmation becomes not a hope but an observation, not a request but a confirmation. Good things are already happening to you right now, at this moment. The question is only whether you are currently capable of seeing them, or whether the trained blindness that comes from years of focusing on what's missing has made them invisible. Gratitude is the cure for that blindness. And unlike most cures, it works quickly, it has no side effects, and it is completely free. There's something else gratitude does that is harder to explain, but very real in experience. When you are genuinely grateful, not performing it, not saying the words while feeling nothing, but actually touching the felt sense of appreciation for something real in your life, your entire nervous system changes. The physiological state of genuine gratitude is incompatible with the physiological state of anxiety and scarcity. You cannot be deeply grateful and deeply fearful at the same moment. The two states cannot fully coexist, which means that gratitude doesn't just add something positive to your morning, it actively clears away something that was blocking you. The worry that was sitting at the edge of your awareness waiting to run its familiar are programmed through your day. Gratitude interrupts it, not permanently, not magically, but enough. Enough to create a gap, and in that gap, the affirmation finds real ground to land on. This is why gratitude is the soil. The seed of good things always happen to me needs something to grow in. Without soil, a seed just sits on the surface, exposed, unable to take root. But place it in rich, genuine, real gratitude, the kind that comes from actually noticing what is already good in your life, and it has everything it needs. Warmth, nourishment, a foundation that holds it steady while it grows. You do not need to spend an hour on this. You do not need a journal or a structured practice or a long list. You need 30 seconds of actual presence, one honest question, and the willingness to let the answer actually land in your body rather than just pass through your thoughts. That is enough. That is more than enough. Because those 30 seconds of real gratitude will change the quality of every affirmation that follows them, and those affirmations will change the quality of every hour that follows them. And those hours accumulated across days and weeks and months will change the shape of a life. Start with what is already good, then reach for what is coming. The reaching will feel different, more grounded, more real, more like truth than it has ever felt before. Your body must believe what your mouth is saying. There is an experiment you can do right now, wherever you are reading this. Collapse your posture. Let your shoulders round forward and drop. Let your chest cave inward slightly. Lower your chin toward your chest. Let your eyes go soft and downward. Hold that position for just a few seconds and notice, not what you think, but what you feel. Notice what that physical shape does to your internal state. What emotions does it invite? What energy does it carry? What does the future feel like from inside that body? Now change it. Sit upright, not rigid, not performatively straight, but genuinely upright the way a person sits when they are fully present and engaged. Let your shoulders open and settle back and down. Lift your chin to a natural forward-facing position. Place both feet flat on the ground if you can. Take one slow, full breath in through the nose, feeling the chest and belly expand, and then out through the mouth, long and easy. And then sit in that position for a few seconds and notice again. Notice what is different. Notice what emotions the second posture invites compared to the first. Notice what the future feels like from inside this body versus the one you were just in. You did not change a single thought. You did not say a single word. You only changed the shape of your body. And yet something in your experience shifted. This is not imagination. This is the body-mind connection operating as it always does in both directions simultaneously. Most people understand, at least in theory, that the mind affects the body. When you are anxious, your muscles tighten. When you are grieving, your body feels heavy. When you are genuinely happy, your posture opens, your movements become lighter, your face relaxes, the mind sends its state downward into the body, and the body expresses it. What far fewer people understand, and what ancient traditions of inner discipline knew and built their entire practices around, is that the connection runs just as powerfully in the other direction. The body sends its state upward into the mind. The posture you hold, the quality of your breath, the tension or openness in your physical form. These are not just symptoms of your mental and emotional state. They are also inputs that continuously shape it. When you walk into your morning affirmation practice with a collapsed, closed, tired body, even if you say the right words, even if you remember the right feelings, the signal is divided. One part of you is saying good things always happen to me, while another part, the physical part, the part that the deeper mind trusts perhaps more than it trusts spoken words, is saying something completely different. It is saying, look at me. Does this look like someone who expects good things? Does this look like someone who is open to receive? Does this look like someone who believes what they are saying? The subconscious mind is not easily fooled by language alone. It reads the body constantly, automatically, and it uses what it finds there to determine what is real versus what is merely being performed. And when the body and the words contradict each other, the body wins. Almost every time. This is why the greatest teachers of inner discipline, across traditions, across centuries, across cultures that never had contact with each other, all arrived at the same conclusion. The work of the mind begins with the preparation of the body, not as a religious ritual, not as a cultural tradition to be preserved, but as a practical, functional recognition that you cannot fully reach the mind without first addressing the physical form through which it operates. You do not need to do anything complex. You do not need any special training or technique. What you need is simply this: before you speak your morning affirmations, give your body 30 seconds of conscious preparation. Sit as if you mean what you are about to say. Breathe as if you believe it. Open your physical form to match the openness you are trying to create in your mind. Sit upright, grounded, present, ready. Take that one slow breath in through the nose, full and complete, and out through the mouth, releasing whatever the night left behind. Let your shoulders open. Lift your chin. Place your hands in a way that feels natural and open, not crossed or gripped. And then from inside that body, speak the words. Feel the difference. Feel how good things always happen to me sounds and lands when it comes from an open, prepared, ready body versus a collapsed, half-asleep, unready one. The words are identical. The meaning is the same, but the reception, the way your own nervous system, your own subconscious, your own deep mind receives and registers the message, is completely different. Because you are not just making a verbal statement, you are making a full-body declaration. You are teaching your entire system, not just the thinking part, but the breathing part, the feeling part, The feeling part, the physical part that carries you through every moment of your day. A new identity, and identity is not just stored in thoughts. It is stored in posture. It is stored in the way you breathe. It is stored in the physical habits of how you hold yourself when no one is watching and nothing is demanding your performance. When the body and the words align, when both are saying the same thing at the same time, the message goes deep. It bypasses the usual surface skepticism of the thinking mind and reaches something more fundamental. And that deeper landing is where real change begins. Not in the part of you that can argue about whether the affirmation is true. In the part of you that simply receives what it is, consistently given, and builds a life from it. Prepare the body. Open the form. Then speak. Let your whole self mean it, not just your voice. Repetition without belief is noise. Repetition with feeling is transformation. There are two people who both decide on the same morning to begin a practice of affirmations. They wake up at the same time. They sit in the same kind of quiet. They say the same words. Good things always happen to me the same number of times. From the outside, the practice looks identical. But 6 months later, one of them has genuinely changed. Something in how they move through their days is different. Something in how they respond to difficulty, how they notice opportunity, how they carry themselves has shifted in a way that people around them can feel even if they can't name it. The other person stopped after 2 weeks, concluded it didn't work, and went back to their old morning. The difference between them was not discipline. It was not consistency, because both were consistent in the beginning. The difference was something much simpler and much harder to teach. One of them was feeling the words. The other was only saying them. This distinction sounds almost too simple to be the thing that matters most, but it is. And understanding why requires understanding something about how the deeper mind actually works. Not the thinking mind that processes language and logic and builds arguments, but the layer beneath it, the part that actually runs the operating system of your daily experience, your emotional baseline, your automatic responses, your felt sense of who you are and what kind of life belongs to you. That deeper part of the mind does not process language the way your thinking mind does. Words on their own are relatively weak signals to it. You can say something 1,000 PA. And if there is no feeling attached, no image, no genuine emotional resonance, no moment where the body actually feels the reality of what the words are describing, the deeper mind files it as noise, not as truth, not as a new instruction, just as sound that passed through without meaning anything real. This is why people can repeat affirmations for weeks and feel nothing change. Not because the practice is wrong, but because they are sending the message in a language the deeper mind cannot fully receive. They are speaking in words alone to a part of themselves that communicates primarily in feeling and image and lived sensation. The subconscious. And this is not a mystical concept. This is how the mind actually operates beneath conscious awareness. Takes its instructions from what you feel repeatedly, not just from what you say repeatedly. The emotional content of a repeated experience is what gets encoded as real, as true, as the operating reality you then live from. This is why a single traumatic event can reshape a person's life, not because it happened once, but because the feeling of it was so intense that the deeper mind encoded it immediately as a fundamental truth about how the world works and what to expect from it. Intensity of feeling accelerates encoding always, which means the reverse is also true when you bring genuine feeling to the affirmation. When you say, good things always happen to me, and for even a few seconds you actually let yourself touch the felt sense of what that would be like, what it would feel like in your body, if that were deeply and completely true, you send a signal that the deeper mind can actually receive and work with. You don't have to fully believe it yet. That is the part most people misunderstand. They think they need to have complete, unwavering belief before the feeling counts. But that is backwards. The feeling is what builds the belief, not the other way around. You only need to let yourself almost believe. To open the door just slightly and let the feeling visit briefly without forcing it, without demanding it stay longer than it wants to. Think about how easily a smell can pull you back into a memory. The scent of something cooking, or the particular smell of a place you spent time in as a child. or the fragrance of something someone you loved used to wear, and suddenly you are not just thinking about that memory. You are almost inside it. The feeling of it is present in your body. Your nervous system responded to the input as if the experience were partially real right now. That is the quality of presence you are reaching for when you work with an affirmation with feeling. Not a manufactured emotion, not performed happiness layered over genuine uncertainty, but a real, even if brief, visitation of what the truth of the statement would feel like if you were already living fully inside it. Good things always happen to me. What does that feel like in the chest? In the breath? In the ease with which you hold your own body? Let that feeling come, even for 3 seconds, even for one breath's worth of genuine contact with it. Then let it go and trust that it landed somewhere real. The depth of feeling matters far more than the quantity of repetition. 5 genuine, emotionally present repetitions will do more for your inner landscape than 500 flat, mechanical, going through the motions, repetitions spoken at the surface level while your mind is already somewhere else. This is not an excuse to be lazy with the practice. It is an invitation to be more present within it, to bring yourself, your actual self, your feeling self, the part of you that knows the difference between meaning something and just saying it, into contact with the words, because the words are no, the destination. The words are the vehicle. And what drives the vehicle, what actually moves it forward, what gives it traction on the road of real change, is the feeling you bring to them. Every single morning, before the day takes you, you have this one window. This quiet, open, undefended space where the deeper mind is still close to the surface, still accessible, still willing to receive new information about who you are and what your life is. Use it fully. Not by saying more, but by meaning more. Not by lengthening the practice, but by deepening it. Bring your body into it. Bring your breath into it. Bring even just a flash of genuine feeling into it. And trust what you cannot yet see, that every time you do, something in you is being quietly, permanently rewritten. Not in the part of you that argues, in the part of you that simply lives what it has been given. The morning you build becomes the life you live. Most people do not realize they are making a choice in the morning. They experience the morning as something that happens to them. The alarm, the tiredness, the immediate rush of obligations gathering at the edges of awareness. And they move through it reactively, doing what the morning demands of them, trying to keep up with what the day is already requiring before they have had a single moment that was entirely their own. It feels less like a choice and more like being carried by a current. And if you have lived this way long enough, you stop noticing that you are being carried. It simply becomes what mornings are. But underneath all of it, underneath the tiredness and the routine and the sense of being behind before you've even begun, there is a choice. Small, quiet, easy to miss, but absolutely real. The choice of how you enter, not what you do first or how efficiently you move through your tasks, but the internal orientation you carry as you step across the threshold from sleep into waking life, open or closed, ready or already bracing, expecting something good or defending against something bad. This choice, made mostly unconsciously in those first few minutes, does more to shape the quality of your entire day than almost any external circumstance that follows. It is the key that unlocks the door before you've even seen what's on the other side. Think about the cumulative weight of this over time. Not just one morning multiplied by 365. Multiplied by 3 years, multiplied by a decade. The person who enters each morning with even a slight but genuine orientation toward good, who has trained themselves through consistent practice to begin each day from a place of openness rather than defense, that person over years lives an almost entirely different life than the person of identical external circumstance, who enters each morning closed, heavy, already certain of difficulty before the day has said a single word. Not because the world gave them different things, but because they became different receivers. And this is the part that matters most, and that almost nobody tells you clearly enough. The world does not respond only to what you do. It responds to who you are. The signal you broadcast, not consciously, not in the words you choose to present to the world, but in the deeper, subtler physical and energetic reality of how you actually carry yourself, that signal is received by everything and everyone you come into contact with. The people who are drawn toward you, the conversations that open, the opportunities that seem to find you rather than requiring you to chase them exhaustingly, these are not random. They are a response. They are the world reflecting back the signal you have been sending, quietly and continuously through the quality of your presence. And that quality of presence is built layer by layer in the morning, in the minutes before anyone else has access to you, in the private internal orientation you choose to begin from, when you spend months building a genuine morning practice, when you have, day after day, planted good seeds, trained the mental muscle, recalibrated the filter, moved through the resistance, generated real gratitude, prepared the body, and brought actual feeling to the affirmation that good things always happen to you. Something begins to show in how you live, not as a performance, not as a mask of positivity you wear for the world, but as a genuine, felt, grounded quality of openness that others can sense without being able to explain why. You become someone who seems to attract things, who seems to be in the right place at the right time more often than probability alone would explain, whose life seems to have a kind of flow that the people around you notice and sometimes even comment on. And if you tried to explain it, you would probably struggle because it doesn't reduce to a single decision or a single event or a single thing you did differently. It reduces to the morning, the quiet, unglamorous daily morning practice that no one sees, that produces no immediate visible result, that asks you to keep going long before you can prove it is working. The morning you build is not just preparation for the day. It is the construction of the person you are gradually becoming. The beliefs you rehearse in those first minutes become the automatic responses you have by afternoon. The feelings you generate in the quiet become the lens through which you interpret what happens by evening. The orientation you choose before anyone else is awake becomes, over time, the character others experience when they encounter you. You cannot build a different life from the same morning. You cannot expect to. Enter your days closed, offended, heavy, and reactive, and then encounter a world that feels open and generous and full of possibility. The world you encounter is, to a degree that most people find uncomfortable to accept, a reflection of the world you have prepared yourself to see. Change the preparation and the reflection changes. Not immediately, not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily, surely, in the way that all real things change through the patient, unsexy, deeply powerful accumulation of daily practice. Build the morning, not perfectly, not with discipline that exhausts you, but consistently with genuine presence, with the understanding of what you are actually doing and why it matters. Return to it every day, especially the days when it feels pointless, especially the days when the resistance is loud, especially the days when nothing in your circumstances seems to support the belief you are working to build. Those days are not obstacles to the practice. Those days are the practice. Those are the mornings that build the deepest roots. And from deep roots, over time, only one thing grows. Everything good that was always waiting for you to become ready to receive it. There is one moment, one single insight that holds everything together. You have been waiting for proof that good things happen to you before you are willing to believe it. But the belief must come first. This is the part that is difficult to accept because it goes against how most of us were taught to think. We were taught, see it, then believe it. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. Show me the result, and then I will adjust my thinking accordingly. But the mind doesn't work that way. The mind works in the opposite direction. Believe it first and then, through the filter you carry, through the posture you hold, through the conversations you invite and the ones you avoid, through the risks you are willing to take. The evidence begins to appear. You are not lying when you say good things always happen to me before the proof arrives. You are choosing your direction before the road fully reveals itself. You are deciding in the quiet of your morning which version of yourself you are willing to become. And that decision, made in one morning and then the next, And then the next, and then the next is the most powerful thing any person can do. You came into this with a question. Maybe it was quiet, maybe it was loud, but somewhere underneath everything you have been asking, why does it feel like good things don't happen to me the way they seem to happen for others? And now you know. It was never about luck. It was never about what the world was giving or withholding. It was about the filter you were carrying, the morning you were building, the signal you were broadcasting before the day even began. The practice is simple, not easy, simple. Every morning before the world gets to you, you get to yourself first. You sit, you breathe, you open, and you speak with feeling, with belief, with the full intention of someone training for something real. Good things always happen to me. And then you. Carry that into your day, not as a shield against difficulty, but as a root system that holds you steady when the wind comes. Because the wind will come, but a tree with deep roots does not fall when it is shaken. It simply grows stronger. This is your morning. This is your practice. This is where everything begins. If this touched something in you, subscribe, because this is only the beginning of what we will explore together.